Hello again and welcome. So what are we going to be talking about in this video? Well, before we go even further, if this is your first time here, my name is Paulo, and in this channel, Build Apps with Paulo, what we do here is that we teach you how to become good developers. Not only will you learn how to program, but you will also learn how to become a better developer, a well-rounded developer that knows more than just programming. So that's what we do here. If you're first time, consider subscribing and stick around. So in this video, I thought I will show you a little bit more the whys of SwiftUI, the importance of SwiftUI, and where it all came from. Not that you need convincing of SwiftUI. By now, you should be very excited and hopefully enjoying these videos. But I thought it would be a good idea to kind of walk you through about SwiftUI, the Apple framework and how it all works and so forth. So what inspires SwiftUI? So that's one of the things coming up. And after that, we're going to start looking at dissecting few components of the SwiftUI. So we're talking about modifiers, changing our text, changing our user interface, and talk about ZStacks. So these are components used to put together an amazing user interface in SwiftUI. And then we'll finish off by creating a very simple application called Business Card. All right, so without any further ado, let's get to it. Now, for us to understand exactly the benefits of SwiftUI, I think it's important for us to look at the progression of the Apple ecosystem, if you will, for developers. So it used to be that in order for you to create any application for the Apple ecosystem, you would have to learn Objective-C. That was it. You had no other option. You had to learn Objective-C in order to create any sort of application for the Apple platform or ecosystem. Now, Objective-C wasn't a very easy language to learn and or to read. In fact, it was one of the toughest languages I've ever had to learn. And a lot of other people also shared the same sentiment. So it wasn't just me. Objective-C was really hard. So Apple decided later, about 20 years or so later, that, okay, it's time to come back to the 21st century and create something a little bit more easier to handle. So then they created Swift language. That was a revolutionary feat, if you will, because Swift was a better language, very simplified and easy to learn. So developers could just learn in a whim. All was good. Now, the thing that you have to realize also, in order for us to build anything for the Apple ecosystem, you would have to, of course, put together some sort of user interface. And traditionally, creating user interfaces is really, really hard, even though we have Swift language. The reason why is because the way we create user interfaces in the Apple realm is that we use Xcode IDE. So the Xcode is the IDE, integrated development environment used to create applications for Apple ecosystem. So you would open up Xcode. In order for you to create user interfaces, you'd have to use Storyboard and or UI Kit, okay, so libraries, to create whatever you wanted to create for our user interface. Now, the Storyboard is just a clunky, cumbersome tool that all developers were stuck for many, many years in order to create anything usable for any iOS application and as well for any macOS and so forth. So just to give you an example, this is a very simple application. As you can see here, this is what we call Xcode. It's just a picture of Xcode. And this simple application here only takes about 4 items or 4 controllers there. Okay, so this simple application, you can see to the left, we have view controller scene on that panel there, and inside we have top layout guide, and we have views, and have a stack view, and then we have the mill label. I mean, it's just crazy. I mean, you can see there's a lot of layers. All of these things you have to drag and drop and search for them. An image view you put on top of that, and then you put a text field. And I mean, it's a lot of work. And on top of that, you would also have to then connect to the code in order for the responsiveness to happen. So when they click on the UI image view, for instance, if you want the app to do something, then you'd have to make sure you connect the code and the storyboard items you've added into user interface. So that is, of course, a pain to say the least. All of that goes away with SwiftUI, because now with SwiftUI, Apple decided to create this framework that is exceptionally amazing, because now you can create all sort of applications for the Apple platform using code only, but not just any kind of code. This code is declarative syntax, right? Meaning it's easy to read and it's also natural to write. So it's almost like you are writing in English language because you're declaring things you want to see in your application. An example here, you can see that piece of code to the left there generates what you see to the right. Now, before SwiftUI, in order to create table view, as they called those lists there, you would have to do a lot of work between the storyboard and using UIKit views and using UIKit APIs and all sort of things you have to do in order to get this to work. But in this case here with SwiftUI, you can see less than 30 lines of code. If that, actually, I would say probably 15 lines of code or less, you're able to put together something simple as that. And the beauty also you have to notice here is that looking at this code closely is that you can actually read, even if you've never looked at Swift code or SwiftUI before, it's easy to read, it's intuitive. You can see, for instance, there's a variable body there, which is just a view, which returns a list, which inside of this list we have an image, right? And we have a view stack or vertical stack, which contains two texts. And then we make the last text there to have a color gray. It makes a lot of sense. So this is why SwiftUI shines. It just takes away all of that cumbersome code as well as storyboard, the old way of creating user interfaces, and makes it more declarative and easy to understand, easy to write, and to the point. So when you first open your Xcode, of course, if it's the first time, you won't see all of these old projects here, right? This should be empty. And this is what you will see when you open the first time. Notice it says beta here. This is what we have at this time as we record these lectures. If you are watching this at a later time, this probably will just say version 11 Xcode. Okay, so you can see here we have different options. So there's get started with playground, or another option here says create a new Xcode project. So what I'm going to do is click on create a new Xcode project, and this happens here. Let me go ahead and resize everything here so we can actually see what's going on. And then this window pops up here. So first of all, we have different kind of applications we can actually create, right? So there's iOS, watchOS, tvOS, Mac, cross-platform, and so forth. What we're interested, obviously, is an application and a single view app. So click here or leave it highlighted. It should be the first thing that's highlighted. Going to say next. And then here, this is where we put a name of our project. So I'm going to go ahead and say my text project, something like that. Okay. Now, at the bottom here, we have team. You don't have to put anything. The reason why I show something here is because I have a team account, meaning that I have paid the $99 a year to actually be able to add teams and do all sort of things. Okay, so in your case, you may not have this, and that's totally fine. And of course, here there's this organization name. At this point, it has just my name. You can change to whatever you want here. I can go ahead and say build apps with Paulo or something like that. Okay. And then we have the organization identifier. So this is the identifier of your organization, which, if you noticed, it gives us a reverse domain name. So this allows us to have some sort of a bundle identifier, which will only be connected to this application here. So that's very important. So you can change to whatever you want. In this case, a random app, or I can change that to something more random, if you will. So Magadi, build apps with Paulo, whatever you want, okay? But always remember that it should be the reverse domain name. That way is indeed very unique. If you notice correctly here is that this bundle identifier is also created as we add this organization identifier, okay? And you can see here, there it is. Very good. Next, you can choose the language. In this case, we can go Objective-C, but obviously we're going to go Swift. That's the language we're going to be using. And the framework we're going to be using is SwiftUI. Okay, so Swift is the language. The framework is SwiftUI, which has this capability for us to declaratively create user interfaces and so forth. So this has to be ticked, obviously. Otherwise, we're not going to be able to get what we want to get. Very good. So once you have all that sorted out, go say next. In this case here, you will have to create a folder somewhere on your machine where all your projects will live. In my case here, I have on my drive a projects iOS, and that's where I put all of my projects. Okay, so you create one. You can put your projects whatever you want them to be, as long as you know where they are, and that's totally fine. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and say create. Take a few seconds, and voila. The moment you do that, just like that, you can see here we have our project. Now, for now, I don't want to overwhelm you with all of the Xcode, because Xcode is such an amazing integrated development environment, IDE, and there's a lot of things that you can do with it. It's quite complex. Okay, so I won't go into deep details of how everything works here, because our focus is just to get started. However, I'll talk about most crucial parts that you should be aware of. The first thing is at the top here, we can actually close this left pane there. So this is our project files. So all of the files that comprise our project are here. And if you want to hide it, of course, you can come up here, hide or show the navigator. So close and open. So you can toggle that. At the bottom here also there is the console, which is hidden at this moment, but you can go like that. Notice now it's appearing and you can close. And to the right, we have also this other pane here, okay, identity and types and so forth. So we don't need those for now. So I'm going to just close that and also close to the left there. So now we are left with this SwiftUI here. Now, one thing you may notice is that at some point I may change the font size, because this is a little bit bigger than what you will see in your machine, because I've changed it a little bit, but maybe I can make it a little bigger. So I'm going to go to File, Preferences, Font and Color. If you wish to do so, there's Dark Presentation, and there is Presentation Dark Large. If I go like this, you notice it's really, really, really big. Okay, maybe it's too big. I'm going to go back to Presentation Dark. Okay, so I think I will keep that one there. Okay, so I just wanted to show you there's options there. Very good. I'm going to go ahead and close this down. Now, the other thing to notice here is that at this point, because the fact that I don't have Catalina installed, because SwiftUI meshes well with Catalina, which means with the macOS operating system Catalina installed on your machine with SwiftUI, then you would have the full features of SwiftUI, which means you would have to the right here the preview. Okay, in our case, we don't have it, which is fine because I just want to get you going here, testing and so forth. Now, if you're brave enough and want to install the beta version of Catalina, which is available for developers right now, you can do so that you can actually get everything. Okay, but in my case, I just decided not to do that, and you don't have to, because your current version of Mac can actually work with SwiftUI, so limited features obviously, so you won't have this preview feature there, but as long as you install Xcode 11. Very good. So we have all here. So let's go ahead and click run here real quick. You want me to do that a few seconds later. You can't quite see because I have my simulator on this side here. If I can get it to come to where I want it to. There we go. The moment you run this, you notice it says hello world. So you can assume that, of course, this hello world comes from this text that was added. Okay, that is the simplest program you'll ever write. All default comes with SwiftUI. You just have to run, and then you should see this hello world, which means I can come here and say hello there instead. Save and command run, or you can click this button here. It's going to happen hello there. Okay, so this text is what is feeding our view here. Okay, let's go ahead and play around with what we call modifiers. So the idea around SwiftUI is to make things easier for us to design applications. Okay, not just iOS applications. This is what we're focusing on, obviously, so far. But with SwiftUI, you can create applications that would run on the Apple platform. So macOS, watchOS, and the whole Apple platform. You can build applications using SwiftUI, and they will all run everywhere in the Apple platform, right? Now let's go and take a look at things we can do with our text, right? Properties of our text, and see them shown here in our simulator. So text, we can actually access a modifier. So a modifier is essentially a method that will change our view text here. So I'm going to go ahead and say dot. I can say font. The moment you start typing, notice that you see this code guessing that happens. Right? This is just to guide us and help us to see what is it that we're going to be changing and how to perform those changes. So you can see there, font, you pass in the actual font. And the cool thing about font here, we can just go ahead and say dot. You can go down so many different kind of fonts you can use. Okay, let's use the large title. If you save that and command run again, you'll notice real quick what's going to happen is that now we have hello there. Just like that, we were able to modify our text. And I can keep going here. I can say go dot. For instance, I can say color like this, and I can pass a color. I could either go and say dot gray. So there are predefined colors already, or I can invoke the big color class there and say dot and say gray, for instance, like that. Okay, whichever way you want. But in this case, let's just pass this way. So I'm going to say gray. I can say green. I can say yellow. Let's start with yellow. Command run. And you should see hello there in yellow. So I can keep going and add more modifiers for our text by invoking the dot operator. And look, I can go and make it bold. I can go and do the font weight. I can make it italic right away, and so forth. I can even make it strike through. Let's try that one. It looks fun. Let's give it a run. Look at that, right? Keep going here. Let's say I want to make it bold. Save and run. It is bold and can go ahead and get rid, for instance, of our strike. There we go. Fix things here. Give it a run. And you see there it is hello there. If I wanted to change yellow to some other color, I can do that easily. And all of that happens instantaneously. Very good. Now you can see the power of SwiftUI, although in a very small way. Of course, this is very simplistic because we're just introducing here. Hopefully you can see that SwiftUI delivers on its promise of this declarative way of coding now, as opposed to having to use storyboard to create simple user interfaces. Now you can go ahead and invoke text and then modifiers or methods on the text and change things around rather quickly. All right, so I hope you're getting excited, and I would like you to play around with all of this. And I would like you to keep adding other modifiers and see things changing here. Okay? Perfect. I'll see you in the next video. Building applications means that we have to build something with the user in mind. So we can build simple applications to very complex applications. Now, SwiftUI relies heavily on a structured way of building our user interface by breaking down our user interface into manageable pieces. That way we can compose those smaller pieces into independent views. What I mean by that is as follows. So imagine we're building an iOS application. We have our screen here, and we want to put a logo there, and we can put some sort of a text to the right. Now this works fine, but a better way would be to actually enclose the logo and company into what we call a stack. So a stack essentially is a container that again gives us that flexibility of composing our user interfaces into smaller pieces of views that we can then move them around and do sort of things. Okay. Now, in this case here, you can see that the logo is to the left and to the right we have our company. So this is what we call the H stack. Okay, H stands for horizontal, meaning anything that goes inside of our H stack will always be horizontally laid out. And obviously, if we have a horizontal stack, that means we should also have, yes, you guessed it, we will have a vertical stack. So that in this case will be a V stack. Now, stacks are the main components of building complex user interfaces using SwiftUI. All right, so we talked about stack, we talked about the horizontal stack, we talk about the vertical stack, but there's another stack called ZStack. What a ZStack does is it allows us to actually put things on top of each other. So for instance, we have a view, let's say a logo, we can actually overlay with a company, which we can then overlay in the back with another view or a stack or whatever else we are trying to put on the screen. Now, the idea of a ZStack is that everything that is put first will be in the back. meaning the last thing that we put on the screen. Let's say we have 3 texts that we're putting on top of each other. So the first thing is going to be in the back, the second thing is going to be in front of the back, and so forth. So the last thing we added, it's going to be in front of everything. So there is indeed an order of whatever we're putting on the screen. All right, so let's go ahead and take a look in code so we can see the differences here. So back to our code editor here, we last had this text hello there, and we add a few modifiers here to change the font to a large title, color, green, and bold, and so forth. I hope you were able to add other modifiers here so you can see what else can you do with the text. Okay, so we talked about stacks. So to create a stack is very simple. Let's start with a vertical stack. Let's say V. Like this, and you can see that we have the option here of VStack. Just hit enter, and of course we're going to put inside of a curly braces here to say that whatever it's inside VStack is going to be, of course, vertically aligned. Now this will not do much. I'm going to go ahead and run this, because you're not going to see any difference at all because we only have one item inside of our VStack. However, the moment we actually add another item here, let's just put text because that's the easiest thing. And I'm going to say another item like that, save and run. You'll notice something very cool will happen. Now we see that these two are vertically aligned, meaning that now we have VStack, so everything we add inside of our VStack, it's going to be vertically aligned. So we can put as many items as we want, as many little views as we want, and you'll see they will always be vertically aligned or stacked. Okay. Now the beauty here is that I can always, because remember all of these are actually views, I can always come down here and do some other modifiers here. So I can say, for instance, foreground, or I can say background color. I'm going to say color dot gray. Save and run. Now notice the whole background is going to be gray. Now notice not the whole background, the whole screen, but yet the background of our VStack. This is how you can see that indeed our VStack contains all of these text inside there. But the other thing we can do here is with VStack, we can actually pass a few parameters. Now notice the moment you hit enter, there's alignment. I can align whatever is inside of our stack. Now there's a few options here for our alignment. I'm going to get rid of all of this. If you go ahead and say dot, notice it's going to give us center, leading, and trailing. Center, as the name implies, it means everything inside of our VStack is going to be centered. If I hit enter here, let me go ahead and get rid of spacing for now, because we don't need it for now at least. I'm going to focus on one at a time. Okay, let's run. You can see now everything is centered. Whatever is inside now is all centered. Now, if I get rid of this again, just leave it empty or just like that, let's go ahead and see. You notice it all shows the same thing again. The reason why is because if you just put a VStack and pass nothing or remove these like that, the default is always centered. So that's why if you don't put anything, it's just going to put everything center. Now let's go back and put back what we had. I'm going to say dot center again. We can also pass the spacing within the items inside of our VStack. So I can pass a number here. I can say I want the spacing to be 23. I'm going to delete the content like that. We don't need to worry about that. And if you run, notice it's going to be centered, but the spacing is going to be a little bit bigger. Look at that. Now the spacing between all of these items vertically is going to be of 23 units or pixels. Let's change this to leading. Leading mean everything is going to be leading to the left. So it's going to move to the left. All these should be to the left. Let's save this and give it a run and see. And voila, you can see now they all went to the left. The spacing is still the same. Let's change to trailing. You will realize that this is the opposite of leading, which means should go all to the right. And voila, everything went to the right. Now, if we change this, let me go ahead perhaps and copy this. Do something like that. And I'm going to go ahead and comment this out. Okay, so we have the, I'm going to change some things here. Let's change this to horizontal stack. Notice we're going to have a little problem here because when it comes to horizontal, we're not going to have any trailing or heading because everything is going to be horizontally aligned. So we can't do that. So, but I can come down here and do dot again. You're going to see there's now bottom, center, first text baseline, last text baseline, and top. Okay, so if I go to bottom, what do you think is going to happen? Let's save this and run. There we go. You can see now they're all horizontally aligned and to the bottom. Very good. And I'm going to change the spacing to about 12. Okay, so everything is horizontal. All right, let's change this to top. You notice now they all move to the top there. Now you can see that this one, this hello there, it's kind of indifferent in a way. Not really. Let's change this to a, let's see, that, let's say none, just to see, so it's not big or small. Now you notice that the moment that happened, a few things, we made the hello there to have a standard font size, not as big or anything. You notice now that our H stack is just using the space that we need, meaning it got smaller because we don't need to have the bigger space if everything can fit in a smaller space. So this is actually a good thing. The idea is that everything that we put inside of our user interface can only use enough space or can only use the space that it needs. You can force things if you want to do so. So if you change, as you saw, the font to be a little bit bigger, of course, the whole space will also try to accommodate everything, which is good. So everything is flexible. Okay, let's go to center and see what's going to happen. So at center, of course, everything is going to be in the middle, but look something here. Let's change this to about 45. So make the spacing in between really big. What do you think is going to happen? Look at that. It's growing. Right? So now we have these 45 spaces in between. Now, the other thing we can do, we can make our H stack a little bit larger. We can actually do that. Remember, we can go outside. This is outside of our H stack. We are now trying to access a different modifier. I'm going to call a frame modifier. A frame modifier allows us to frame or change the size of our stack. So in this case here, we can pass a height or width and height. I'm going to start with width of about, let's say 300. And a height of also about 240. Let's save and run. Look at that. So what happened here is that the width is a little bit smaller because we said 300. If we don't put the width, what happens is that it takes enough space. So all these alignments, top, bottom, center, and so forth, they become more apparent when we actually have, say, a view such an image, and then we have text, and then we have a circle and so forth. Then we can be able to actually see how everything fits together. But hopefully by now you understand a little bit more about H stack and V stack. Try to understand by changing certain values here and see what happened on screen here. All right, perfect. So in the next video, we're going to tap into the Z index. Okay, let's look at the ZStack. So we said ZStack allows us to stack things on top of each other. All right, so if I change this to Z like that, in fact, let's go ahead and run as it is right now, save and run. Looks like we have a problem. So it says that spacing, extra argument spacing is being called, which is not allowed. Why is that? Well, the reason why is because we don't need spacing if things are actually stacked on top of each other, right? Makes sense. So that's why we're complaining here. And to make this disappear, we just get rid of it. And we can get rid of also the alignment and everything because we don't need any of that. So save this now and run. We should have no problem whatsoever. And look what's going to happen. Everything is on top of each other. That's exactly what a ZStack does. To make all of these a little bit more visible, I'm going to change all these texts. Let's say font. Let's change this one to sub, headline, this one dot, font, it's going to be dot, let's see, say headline, okay, so that looks good. Let's save this and run. Very good. Still not helpful here. So what we're going to do actually is we're going to enclose all of these texts inside of different stacks. Right, we can actually stack stacks inside of stacks. I'm going to put a vertical stack. Okay, I'm going to copy this, put that inside there. Let's just do all of this. Okay, copy like that. Let's get rid of all of that. Very good. So now we have all of these stacks here. The other thing you can do, you can actually select all of your code. So Command A, and if you say Control I, it will indent everything so everything looks much better. Okay, very good. So now we have a ZStack which contains all these vertical stacks, which in turn they contain text. If we run this, nothing has changed except we have the same text, right? So I'm going to say just another. Let's see, hello, and this one I'm just going to put world. This is just to differentiate things. I'm going to make this bigger. So headline, Let's say large title. That's fine. Let's save and give it a run. Okay, very good. So this is a little bit more distinct in a way that we have different text. Very good. So now what I'm going to do is for each stack, let's add a background color. I'm going to say background. This is going to be color.green. And this other one's going to be background color. I'm going to say color.blue. And the last one is going to be dot background color. I'm going to say color.orange. Why not? Save and run. You can see now the power of Z-index. Like we said before, whatever we added first is going to be in the back. So another, which is green, notice is way in the back. We have the other VStack here, which has another hello text there, and the color is blue. And then last but not least, we have another world, color orange. Okay. At this point here, I hope you can start seeing the power that we have using stacks, right? Using horizontal stacks, so HStack, vertical stacks, and of course VStack. Because creating the stacks, it's much easier to move things around and also adhere to the paradigm that Swift brings to us, which is the declaratively composing views into smaller pieces so that we can then put together a more complex user interface. Okay? So what I want you to do, again, is play around with this concept here. We talked about horizontal stack and vertical stack. So go ahead and play around and start thinking maybe perhaps of something a little bit more elaborate that you can put together real quick, considering all the things that you've learned so far. Very good. So go ahead and knock yourself out, and I'll see you in the next video. So now that you understand a little bit more about SwiftUI, namely how to modify text and make it look better, and also you've learned about stacks and Z-stacks, vertical stacks and everything, it's time for us to dive in and look at building an awesome, simple application that will put all of these things that I've shown you into practice. So that is what we're going to be doing next. And so before we move forward, I want to let you know that if you are interested in learning more about SwiftUI, I'm actually putting together a course with more information about SwiftUI, where you can learn everything you need to know about SwiftUI as well as Swift programming language. If you are interested, go ahead right below, follow the link. You can drop your email there, and so when it's ready, I'll let you know. Okay, so do that. It's right below, and let's go ahead back to code. So here's what we're going to be building next. So it's going to be a business card, a very simple one, but we're going to incorporate all of the things that we've learned and perhaps something new as well, such as image. So we're going to put together a very nice business card, as you see here. Okay, so let's go ahead and do that. I'm going to go back to our Xcode file, say new. I want a new project. And there we go. We're going to use a single view app. Say next, and this one's going to say biz card. Everything looks good. Make sure that we have use SwiftUI ticked. Say next, and of course, just go ahead and create. And voila, we have our new project here. Let's go ahead and close a few pans there. And I don't want the right one either. Very good. So we have our project here. Okay, let's go ahead and give it a run. Of course, we should just get an empty app that says hello world. So we have our hello world empty and ready for us to start working on it. Okay, so let's go ahead and get rid of our text there because we don't need that. So the idea, let's go back to our text. If we click there, it's going to go back to our previous app, which is the previous app that I've been building. So this is what we're going to be building here. And notice the moment we get rid of our text, of course, we have some problems here. It just says that whenever we have this view, it has to return something. At this point here, I'm going to go ahead and put a HStack. And inside here, for now, I'm going to go ahead and put a text that say, hey, so we don't have any issues. So I'm going to go run this application here, this project, and there we go. And we can always go back to my text project, which is what we've been working on previously, and I've actually create a simple business card app. Very good. So we have hey, so everything is good. And now we're going to go ahead and build everything from scratch. So the first thing we're going to do is to create what's inside here. So what I'm going to do is put an image. As you can see here, this is indeed an image. I'll show you in a bit how to do that. And we have text, and another image, and we have another text. All right, so let's get rid of text there. so we have our H stack there. What I'm going to do is let's create first this name and of course this website name there. So I'm going to start with name and I'm going to just say Paolo Dishon, yours truly. And next I'm going to also add another name here. So I'm going to say text, not a name. It's going to be the website. Build apps with Paolo.com. Shameful plug here. And very good. Let's go ahead and save and give it a run. We should be able to see. There we go. Very nice. So it says Paolo Dishon, build apps with Paolo.com. But this is not what we want. What we want is we want this first name to be at the top and the build apps at the bottom. The reason why it's looking like this, you should know by now, is because we have H or horizontal stack. So if I go ahead and change this to vertical stack, of course, if we run this real quick, we should see that indeed now we have the way we want things to look like. Very good. So we have name and we have my website. Let's go ahead and add a few modifiers to our text here. So I'm going to go ahead and say font. Now you also notice something very strange. Sometimes the IntelliSense or the code complete doesn't quite work, right? So you kind of have to force it in a way. No problem. So I'm going to say dot, and I want this to be title font, and I'm going to say dot color, the color of our text. I want it to be white like that. Very good. And I'm going to do the same with the bottom here, and voila, now we can see our code completion working here. It's very buggy at this point. Okay, so color, and I'm going to say I want also to be white. Very good. So we have that. Let's go ahead and save and run. Of course, if that runs, all goes well, we're not going to see anything, even though we do have all the text there. It's just that the colors are white, and of course, white on white, it just shows nothing, but something is there. Okay, so we have that now. Next, we want to make sure to create that background that we saw earlier, right? The background that was orange. How do we do that? Well, what we're going to do is I'm going to include all this inside of another stack. In this case, I'm going to say H stack as such, and I'm going to copy or cut all of this and put inside of the main H stack like that. So in this upper enclosing stack, you can see if you click, notice this was highlighted. So this is the end of this main stack. I can now add color to this outer stack. So if I come here and say dot background, there we go, background color, just hit enter. And I'm going to say color dot orange, save and run. Look what's going to happen. All of a sudden, you're going to see we have that orange color, and there's a name and the website name as well. Okay, so we're making progress. But what we really want to do also is we want to make sure that this background here has some sort of frame so that we can change the width and the height. To do that, I'm going to just click right there, and I'm going to say dot frame, and I'm going to give it a width of about 380 and a height of about 200. Save and run. Let's see what's going to happen. Right away, we should see, there we go. Now it looks much, much better. Okay, very good. The other thing I can add here, I can come down here and say dot, and let's say I want to add a corner radius. I'm going to add of about 8, and I'm going to give a shadow, a nice shadow around this whole view there. Let's give it a 5. Save that and run. Let's see what's going to happen. And just like that, you can see we've changed the whole look of our card just with a few lines of code. Very nice, very nice. So next, what we're going to do, we're going to add an image here, a leading image right about there to the left. Now, we have to be strategic. Again, remember, there is so many ways to do the same thing, but we always have to think ahead of what is that we're trying to build. And according to that plan, we also have to think in terms of how to position things around what goes with what stack and so forth. So that's the challenge per se. Now, we understand that we have this stack. Let's go back, clear that. We have this upper stack here, which includes the Paolo Dishon and the website. So what we need to do next is to add an image. Now, the image needs to be around here. So how do we make it so that the image is around here? Where do we put it? Now, luckily, we understand that this is an H stack. So whatever comes inside here, it's going to be horizontally aligned. So we are in luck here. I can just go ahead and use an image element. So if you just go say image, hit enter, an image element allows you to add the name of the image and all sort of things. But what we want a system name so we can get some sort of image. Now, what is this system name? It turns out that Xcode, being this powerful, amazing IDE, integrated development environment, okay, it comes with a lot of assets that we can use for testing or just to create our apps in a whim. Okay, I'll show you later how to actually add your own images so that you can start seeing things. But for now, I want to show you a very awesome trick that you can do that already comes with this IDE here. We can just use that. So when you put system name, the system knows this image element will know exactly that, okay, it's expecting a specific system name of image to be shown. So I so happen to know that there is indeed a system name for our image that we want. It has to be a string, of course. So put instead of double quotes there, it's going to be something like b.circle.fill. That's all. So this is going to go through the Apple framework system and find an image that comes with the IDE in the whole system. So we don't have to create our own image. It's just going to be a circle filled with a B inside of it. Save this and give it a quick run. Let's see what's going to happen. And just like you see, there's a very tiny B right there. It's really hard to see. Very good. It looks really good. Not so much. Let's go ahead and make this image a little bit larger. Now, how do we do that? Well, the image itself, it's not resizable. We can't go ahead and just say that frame like that. It won't work. We have to make it resizable to tell the system that, hey, this image that we're getting, we want to change the size ourselves. So you say dot, and we're going to say resizable. There we go. The moment you do that, that's all good. Now we can go ahead and resize everything. So I'm going to say dot. First of all, I'm going to add a foreground color, meaning now it's black. I want to change to something else. I'm going to say color dot white, and then I'm going to say dot frame. Okay, so now I'm going to put the width to be 100 and the height to be also 100. Save and run, Command R. You'll notice now we have this very nice B there as the system image that we've chosen. All right, very, very nice. Just like that. Okay, so we made a lot of progress here. The last thing we need to add here is the actual Twitter account. So what do? We come down here inside of the ZStack where we have the name and the website. We can do the same thing. But what do we need actually? We are going to add another H stack, because what we need to do is to create a horizontal stack so we can put a T image, a very tiny one, and then of course the text. You see? The power of using stacks, because you can put together these little elements that you can move around and do all sort of things. So I'm going to go ahead and say H stack. I'm going to say image again, and it's going to be system image. The same thing we did before. So I'm going to say square this time, dot fill like that. That's very nice. And I'm going to say foreground color. I want it to be color white. Okay, let's save this and run, see what's going to happen. Look at that. There it is. Very good. Now, you notice it's all the way to the middle or to the right. I want it to go all the way to the left, meaning I want this V stack or H stack, I should say, to have an alignment. Now, the thing here is that with H stack, I can't put leading because it's all horizontal, but I can do that with the V stack, meaning the whole stack which holds the name and all that text. So I'm going to go up here, the V stack. I'm going to say alignment. I'm going to say leading. And while I'm here, I'm going to put spacing of about 10, and the rest I'm going to just get rid of all of that. Okay. Let's save this and give it a run. Something's going to change. Look at that. Now this whole V stack, which is literally all of this inside here, it's leading. So it went all the way to the left. Very nice. That's exactly what we want. And so back to our H stack where we have our image here. Next, I'm going to just add a text. And this text is going to have text, of course, that will say build apps with me. And while we are at it, I'm going to add a font like that. It's going to be subhead line. And then I want it to be italic. Save and run. See what's going to happen. And voila, we have the Twitter at Build Apps with me. Now, this is kind of odd. I know in the previous demo that I had, this was the color. How about change that color to something perhaps a little bit more exciting? How about say text color? I'm going to say color dot gray, perhaps. I don't think that would be good. No, that's not that great. Let's see. How about pink? It's too aggressive. Okay, we're just going to stick with white at this point. Of course, you can play around with whatever color you want, but there we go. That looks much better. And what if we wanted to make this actually bold? I can say bold. Perhaps that would get things. Nope, doesn't work because we already have italic. I don't think we can have the same thing. Let's see. Sometimes it's a little buggy. There we go. Sometimes everything is a little buggy here. I have to move things around. No problem. So we have bold. You can make it italic and bold. Very nice. So just like that, we're able to put together quickly a very nice business card here. And of course, if you want to change this B to P, perhaps that would be better. You can do so since my name is Paulo. Doesn't matter really. But there we go. Voila. You are able to create a full-fledged application here that uses stacks, and we're able to put everything together in less time. Now, it took a little bit longer because I'm explaining, but if you were just to go straight and do all of this yourself, you would be able to do this really quickly because, as you can see, that's the whole idea of SwiftUI, is to declaratively create user interfaces that are amazing with less code. All right, very nice. Congratulations. And what I want you to do is I want you to create your own and perhaps add more elements, right? Such as maybe a different letter or maybe add more text. Maybe you could put some sort of buttons on other images. I mean, just go ahead and explore more because that's how we learn, right? So if you are able to go and explore on your own and trying to figure things out as well by creating, by keep coding, I believe that's very beneficial to your learning. All right. Okay. Congratulations. And I'll see you next time. Okay, so at this point we have this image as we talked about earlier. We have actually two of them. Now it's time for us to learn how to add our own images into our project and then invoke them in code, and then it can show up inside of our application here. Okay, to do that, obviously, we need to get an image. I already have an image that we're going to be using. And so I'm going to get that image and insert into our project. To do so, we have to open this pane to the left here. So click there. There we go. This is our project. There's a lot of files in here. But what we're interested in is the assets folder here. So click on assets folder. You notice there's nothing at this point. So the assets folder is the folder for assets. So all the images that we're going to be using in the application, this is where we put. In fact, you can see here it says app icon. So this is also where you put the app icon. Very good. So I'm going to drag an image from my computer and just drop it there. The moment you do that, you notice now there is the image name that is called Paulo Nice Photo. It's a very awesome name. And you notice there's 1x, 2x, and 3x. So this is just resolution of images. So usually when you add assets of images or icon for your application, that is, there are different resolutions that Apple devices have. So there's 1x, so the lower resolution, the medium, and the highest resolution. So usually what you would do, you would have a resolution 1, and then you would double the size of that image and resolution, of course, and then triple. So you would have 3 versions of that one image. Okay, so we have here the Paulo's Nice Photo, and you can see there it is. Now what we need to do is to figure out a way to actually replace this P for this photo there. Okay, let's go back to our code. So we have here image system name. We passed that. Now what I'm going to do, in fact, I'm just going to go ahead and comment this out and do it all over again. So let's go ahead and say image like that. Right away, we can just go ahead and add the image name inside of what? Inside of our double quotes. Okay, so what is the name of our image? Is Paulo's Nice Photo, like that. Okay, so let's save this and give it a quick run to see if it's going to show. And voila, there's the image, but as you can see, it's taking every single space. And it's just a neck of Mr. Paolo, yours truly. So that's not very flattering, is it? Okay, let's fix that. Well, first of all, we're going to go ahead and say resizable because we want to make sure that the photo is resizable. Save that and run. And voila, the moment we do resizable, it just goes ahead and crops it a little bit, but this is still not what we want. Let's go ahead and give it a frame. That way we know exactly what we're dealing with. Let's say frame. And in this frame here, I'm going to pass the width to be about 150. And now these numbers, I have figured them out myself before, so I know exactly that these numbers will work. There we go. Let's save and run and see what's going to happen. Very nice. Much better, much better, much better indeed. The other thing I can pass inside of a frame here, I can just say that I want this to have an alignment of that center to be in the middle. I need to put a comma there. Save and run again. We should not have problems at this point. Very good. So it's kind of hard to see. The image is now actually aligned center. Very good. So it seems like these numbers are not the best. So let me change this to something else. I'm going to make this about 180. I think 180 is better because this is a little bit squished in. And the height, I'm going to say 230. Let's run and see. All right, much better. Very proportional and looks much better. So next, what we're going to do is inside of our frame that we just created, which is now our image, I'm going to go ahead and create another entity, another element that will be the clip shape. So it's going to go ahead and clip around this photo here. Okay, so we can use that. Look at this. Come down here and say dot clip. Look at this. The clip shape allows you to pass an actual shape. Right? Because clipping, that means just cuts the corners and we can make it rectangular, circular, and so forth. Obviously, we're interested in a circular shape. So I'm going to say enter, and I'm going to pass a circle like that. Give it a run. And just like that, you can see that it is now clipped and it looks really, really nice, right? On top of the image, and it looks really good. Now we could stop here and everything would be fine, but because we're learning, I'm going to go further to make this image even better. So notice that this is really interesting, and this is the power of SwiftUI. So we have image and we say we want it to be resizable, right? And then we pass in a frame to actually update the frame of the picture. We want the width to be 180 and the height 230. We also said, you know what, just to make sure we want the alignment to be center. So the image will always be in the middle of its container. And then we said, you know what, we want to clip, because remember it was a square, that's the default. We said we want to put a clip around that image. Okay, and so to do that, we said clip shape, and we pass in a circle. We could have passed in a rectangle here. In fact, we can say rectangle like that. Notice what's going to happen. We should have a rectangle. Look at that. Looks pretty much the same as we had before, which is not what we want. Okay, so we want a circle. But now what we want, let's go ahead and run this just so we can see. All right, so far so good. But what we're going to do next is inside of our clip shape, we pass in this circle, didn't we? Yes, we did. Now, also what we want to do next here is we want to pass in an overlay view here. This is the beauty. So that means inside of our clip shape, we pass a circle, we want to overlay something else inside of it. So we can pass in overlay, we can pass any type of view. Well, circle again is a type of view, so we're going to pass that. And what we're going to do next, notice now I'm inside of our overlay here, circle. I'm going to go ahead and customize our circle, which is the overlay, which means it's going to be on top of this circle, which is on top of our image. So what we want to overlay is what? I want to overlay a stroke so that the size of the circle will have some sort of stroke. Well, a stroke has a color. I want it to be white. And a stroke also has a line width, right? It's like a pencil. Like how wide is the tip of the pencil as you write? I want this just to be about 2. Very nice. And then I want to pass in a shadow radius of about 5. So that means around this image, around the stroke we added, which is inside of a circle, I want to also add this nice radius shadow there. All right, let's go ahead and save and run. And voila, the moment you do that, you can see we have this nice overlay circle, which is white. If we make this line width maybe 5, you can see the difference. The line width is going to be wider. Look at that. Okay, so we're going to keep width perhaps about 3. Maybe that's the best. And voila, there it is. Very nice. Let's go ahead and close it. Put this there so it's not too complicated. Very good. Now, if we want to actually have a shadow around the whole entity here, so around this image, just like what we had with our background card here, we could come outside here and just say dot shadow and pass a shadow of, let's say, exaggerate a little bit here, put 8 and see what's going to happen. You should notice like some sort of shadow around. You see this darker shadow there? Nice. So it's around the whole image and the circle and overlay and everything. And just like that, we're able to add an image and customize that image ourselves and make it all look great. Look at that. Very good. I hope this is getting you more and more excited about SwiftUI. I'm very excited about this and I'm excited that you're here, and go ahead and play around this concept. All right, I hope you enjoyed this video. I will keep doing small videos such as this to give you more value, and so hopefully you're enjoying these videos, because if you're not, then I probably should stop doing them, but I think you are enjoying. If you are, just go ahead and comment below. And remember, if you're interested in learning more about SwiftUI and you want to be notified later once I have my course done, just go ahead and follow the link in the descriptions below. Again, thank you so much. Paulo Deshon here. If you're not subscribed, consider subscribing. As you can see, we have a lot of great quality here. And until next time, have fun.